Hi, my name is Amanda Keller. I'm the Associate Curator here of Historic Interiors at the Colonial Williamsburg Foundation. And today I'm going to take you on a little behind the scenes tour of the Thomas Everard House. Right now we have this brand new installation that was just installed a few months ago where we're talking about the wedding of Mr. Everard's daughter. Her name was Martha Patsy Everard. She went by Patsy, and she got married to Dr. Isaac Hall in 1772. Mr. Everard was a very prominent person here in Williamsburg. He was the clerk of York County Court, and he also was the mayor of Williamsburg. He held many other positions than just those two, but those are the two that he's kind of known for. And so when his daughters got married, he really went all out, and I wanted to kind of show that here in the house. We're standing right now in the Everett Parlor. This would have been probably where the wedding would have taken place. Even though we are directly diagonal from Bruton Parish Church, which is just across the green here, most couples would get married in the bride's home. So that's what we're showing in the parlor. So it looks a little empty right now, but what I like about it is that the couple probably would have stood here at the mantle, and then their friends and family would have stood and witnessed their nuptials. And then what I love too about the Thomas Everard Parlor is that we have this great carpet on the floor, and that's probably a good thing because after the wedding, people would have went across to the dining room, had a huge feast, and then they would have come in here for a lot of dancing. Carpets are really good for dancing. In most places where dancing would have occurred, like the Palace Ballroom, for example, or the Weatherburns Tavern Great Room, we do know that there were carpets, and it really made dancing a lot easier. And what I like too is in the parlor we have this great spinet, we have a wonderful antique violin and a German flute on display, and a music stand. So we can kind of show that music would have been a really big part of this celebration. And of course you can't have a party without punch. So we tried to show that with our antique punch bowl and a salver full of wine glasses to really get that party started. So now we're in the Everard dining room, and this would have been where the wedding guests would have come after the ceremony, and they would have had a very large feast with multiple courses. And right here we're showing actually kind of like one of the last courses. This would have been the dessert course where a wedding cake would have been served to the guests. And I think a lot of people, when they come to visit us, they want to see what 18th century wedding cakes looked like. But what's really interesting is the idea of a wedding cake didn't really take place until really mid-18th century. That's when we start seeing recipes for bride's cakes popping up in recipe books. They were typically a rich cake or a pound cake with meringue or royal icing on it. In this case, we decided to show a meringue icing, so that's why you see sort of the burn marks on the outside. And what's really fun about these types of displays that we get to have the food actually made in our historic foodways kitchens at the palace, and then our conservation team makes the faux food, I should say, so that we can put them on display in our historic homes. It's important to have faux food because then we don't attract pests in our buildings, and that's good. We don't want mice running around on our tables. So when you look at these things, what I really love is you can really tell that our conservation team really thinks about what's the best way to make these types of things come to life. Jennifer Thornton, our senior technician, decided to cut different rings of styrofoam and stack them and then shape them down so that she could create this great pound cake, or this Turk's head shape. And then she actually iced it with, to make the frosting. And so that's why it really does look like frosting, even though it's actually, all modern materials. And then what I love too is she actually made these sugared violets, just like, what they had in the 18th century, and then she put those on top for decoration. And that's typically what you see. It would be a white cake. It didn't have to have 3 tiers like they do today. It could have just been a really nice big cake that's just one layer. And then what else I like about these things is that we're showing other types of desserts that were often served as part of a dessert course. So you see things like jellies being served. Some of my favorite things in here are these great jelly glasses. And our team actually had to make custom jelly inserts because each glass is a different size and shape because they're hand blown. So as you can see, some are quite small and narrow, and then some are very large and wide. So they had to custom fit these types of jellies in them. And I'm not going to try to pop that out because it's a little sticky today, but they're just inserted. It's like a little cone and then a little piece of mylar that sits on directly on top, so it creates this look that there's jelly inside. And what I love too is our colorways are period appropriate. So our food waste staff actually made the jellies using the correct pigments. So like for the saffron to create the yellow and cochineal for the red. So that's how we're getting these authentic colors. And they did the same thing for the marzipan when they made this. Foodways made beautiful marzipan, and then our conservation staff also made this. All of these are made out of Model Magic, which essentially is like Play-Doh. It's a really lightweight Play-Doh. So you can mold it into whatever shape you want. And then they also painted it so that it would have the right color. And they did a color match with the original food that came in. I really like the little pineapples. These are really cute. And so marzipan is just molded sugar, essentially. So it would have been a delicacy, something that you could have picked up and eaten right off the plate.